Okay, so I think it's time to kick off. Thank you for joining our first regulatory roundtable today. The regulatory topic is always very close to our hearts at the Crypto Value Association because we have a very active regulatory working group, an AML working group, led by our very own board member, Ekaterina Antony, who will be moderating today's session. So you're in for a treat. I'm not going to take any of their time because there's a lot to discuss today about the topic. So Ekaterina, please take it away and have a fantastic panel.
Thank you, Nikki. And by the way, Nikki is our marketing manager, and only because of her we have such a great event. So thank you, Nikki, so much, and for a short introduction of me. Yes, AML, yeah, probably for morning is a bit difficult topic, and I promise you we will try to have a bit of fun as well. All people sitting here, I know them already in person, so for me it will be easy to moderate because I know what to expect from them, right? And just a couple words about myself. I manage Smart Compliance. It's a company which focuses on helping startups navigate regulation in Switzerland and compliance. And now I would like everyone just to introduce. Please, we start with Detlef.
So, mic is on. Thank you. My name is Detlef Michael Basset. I was born in Switzerland, studied in St. Gallen and the University of Bern. I came from the classic financial industry, 20 years as head legal of compliance in a middle-sized bank in the eastern part of Switzerland. Then since over 1 year, head of compliance and crypto finance in Zurich. And I'm also a lecturer for anti-money laundering, KYC, and data protection in different universities also. And I'm co-writer of the AML commentary in Switzerland, specialized for tax fraud and classic AML matters. But now also what's going on in the crypto world with cryptocurrencies, blockchain, organized crime. I wrote my PhD about the matter topic AML and organized crime. And so I want to have a newer version, an update also regarding cryptocurrencies, blockchain technology, and what's going on with organized crime and this topic. So that's from my side. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Katharina Lasota-Heller. I am attorney at law admitted in Switzerland and in Poland. Besides that, I created L'Excellence law firm in Zug 4 years ago. Actually, I'm also president of Swiss-Polish Blockchain Association. So if we have any Polish people here, I'm happy to connect after the panel. I've been working in the area for 20 years, I would say. I might not look like, but it is actually such a long time already. I have been active in mobile payments, technology payments, banking payments, digital payments, whatever might be used and developed in relation to e-commerce or recently blockchain technology. I am actually passionate about disruption, technological disruption, and digital disruption and economic disruption. So whatever is being developed on the market, I am really looking forward to challenge it from the legal perspective. And today I will be talking about AML regulations in Switzerland and FATF.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Magdalena Boschkic. I'm head RegTech and crypto compliance services at Signum. I have a legal background, worked in crypto finance before. I have been doing crypto compliance since 2017, and it's my pleasure to be here today.
Good morning, I'm Lucas. I'm the president of the Bitcoin Association Switzerland, which we founded in 2013. And I'm CEO of 21 Analytics, where we build a software solution for the travel rule. So I have kind of two contradicting hats, a little bit.
Great. So we have a mixture of legal, technical, and compliance people here, very professional with a lot of experience. And actually, I ask you to be proactive, and we will expect your questions as well, because it's also not just for us to talk today, but also educate you, as we also running our working groups, and everyone can become a part of it. So as Nikki already said, I'm co-chair of the AML and compliance working group. We also have regulatory working group, and for us it's important that we support our members. Okay. Before we start, I would like to ask the audience, do you know what WASP means? How many people know it? Okay. And travel rule for crypto? It's better. Okay, WASP is a vertical asset service provider, actually intermediary. It can be any person or legal entity who provides services to the third party. So if you are selling something, or you are a broker, or you are a bank, you are WASP. And I would like to start with our discussion from Swiss perspective, as we are based here. And Katerina, maybe you give us a bit of outlook, what's going on in Switzerland, where we are with the regulation for transferring crypto.
Okay, before I will start exactly answering to this question, I want to set the scene a little bit, because what I discussed, even what we keep discussing among our regulatory working group or AML group, or discussing with our clients in relation to FATF or AML, you just need to know three things before I will start talking. Firstly, we have those regulations. So I have clients which will try to tell me all the time, but we are a crypto transactions provider. You don't need to apply them to crypto, whatever. No, we have those regulations. We may not like them, but they apply, and we have to apply them. So if we have questions from the bank industry, what about your compliance policy, whatever, you have to have those policies. They will not walk away, even if we don't like them. Second issue. I always hear voices saying, well, but the AML requirements and FATF compliance requirements, they may stop our technical development. Well, this might be true, but it's not an argument towards regulators, and it's not an argument toward judges. If we come up with those statements, we cannot say we're not going to apply them because they stop our development. We just need to come up with a solution how we can approach AML requirements in digital environment, how we can basically make sure that we have compliance and we have further development of, let's say, digital finance, let's put it like this. And then third question, third issue which always comes up is, what about privacy? So guys, if you bringing up issues related to privacy, read exactly and very in details GDPR. It will give you reasons and basis how, basically how you have to apply GDPR provisions, basically saying if there is legal obligations to transfer, if there are legal obligations to transfer data, you have to transfer them. And if you have a legitimate interest, then also you can process those data. So just having put those 3 points aside, I will go further. So what has happened? 2019, FATF issued a statement that WASPs also need to apply regulations related to anti-money laundering and fight against terrorism, basically. So let's call them AML. Then shortly after that, a Swiss regulator, FINMA, also issued guidance saying this is how we will apply this in Switzerland. Now, you may all know or heard, I guess from around 2015, that Switzerland has regulations. This is the country to go and to be in relation to blockchain industry. Yes, it has, but it actually barely introduced any new ones. We have regulations which are being applied basically according to technology-neutral approach and to something what is called economics of your business model, or in relation to payments token, to the token economics. Sometimes, even it was the CEO of FINMA who said at some point that if something looks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, it's most probably a duck. So if we have a token, which is payment token, this is mean of payments. We need to apply all of the regulations which are related to AML requirements. Now, what has happened? FATF basically stated, hey, financial institution, you need to apply the AML requirements to financial transactions. FINMA, the Swiss regulator, said, okay, we will do it in our own way in Switzerland. We have already regulation. If you look on regulation article number 10 of FINMA AML regulation, it says by payment transactions, you need to provide certain information. Let's be it address, let's be it information about the beneficial owner and so far and so on. So FINMA decided we have to implement the FATF regulations into the Swiss law and did not introduce the exemption which is included in the FATF requirements saying you don't need to get the information from not regulated providers. So in Switzerland, whichever financial institution is receiving any virtual currencies needs exactly to know from where they're coming. And basically, the issue concerns two situations. We have customers, own customers with external wallet and third party with external wallet. If we have own customers, we need to make sure that we know that they are owners of the external wallets from where they will be transferring the cryptocurrencies. And when we have third parties which are transferring to wallets of our customers, we need to establish identity of the third party, who is the beneficial owner, and also ownership of the wallet. And that's the whole difficulty in Switzerland. So you cannot say in Switzerland, we can't do it. Because yes, you have, and even if there are no technology-related standards, you still have to do it. You may ask it in advance. It might be an email, it might be an PDF. I'm not going to talk about technology-related solutions because that's my esteemed co-speaker, Lucas, will be talking about that. Basically, this is how it is. So we just simply need to apply these regulations, and this is how it looks in Switzerland.
Thank you, Katerina. So it seems like in Switzerland we have everything in place. We have to identify any client we onboard, and then talking about travel rule, we also need to actually keep this information and transfer this information to the other WASP or intermediary to whom we send the funds of the client. And maybe we now go outside Switzerland and look at EU. Detlef, would you like to give us a bit of overview what's going on there?
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, yes, the EU situation goes in the direction with MiCA, and for me, I noted if you want to mitigate risk and promote integrity and stability in the financial market, so what is the way or what is the spirit behind? Before you can mitigate risk, you have to identify where the risks are, i.e. understand the business model and know the characteristics. E.g., this is what the spirit is in the EU. Categorization of tokens into payment or e-money token, investment token, or usage or utility tokens based on FINMA's definition. We got it here in Switzerland. This is a guidance on ICOs in Switzerland made by FINMA. And the categorization of different types of crypto assets leads to different legal consequences. So this is the follow-up. And in the EU, the intent is to have more stricter consumer investor protection, one side, and on the other side, to avoid additional cases of money laundering via cryptocurrencies, via tainted wallets and all these things, to have more transparency, more guidance, more stricter regulation. So I can say at the center are increased information obligations with the aim of ensuring consumer protection. At the moment, the Consumer Protection Directive in the EU is not applicable regarding crypto wallets. Potential buyers should be informed about the characteristics, function, and risks of crypto assets. The requirements for the information documents, so-called white papers, to be prepared for this purpose are regulated in detail. This is the Article 5 of the MiCA regulation. When comes this MiCA regulation? So it seems that it comes end of 22 this year, perhaps a little later, but this is a really relevant thing so that you know exactly what kind of token is it. And if it's a special token, in case that the token is qualified as a financial instrument, then the regulation goes in the direction of MiFID II. It's not relevant for MiCA, then it's relevant for MiFID II. But MiFID II is strong regulated, that means. So you have to accept and fulfill all the requirements from MiFID II investor protection. So the corset will be stronger. And you will have in future more compliance requirements. And that means also you have perhaps dispute with the management. Because the management has the spirit to make business easy, that it flows, that the workflows are easy, simple, and also to be fit in the market. But the experience is, I come from the classic financial industry, more than 20 years. Look, we have learned also live with stronger regulation also in the classic financial industry. If you go back 20 years, nobody knows what KYC means, AML, and what CTF. What is the reason behind? So now we have learned. And all the banks has to learn. And after 9/11, CTF comes additional to the topics. And so I think this is a new area to learn, okay, what is the business model, how it works, what are the specified tokens, the categorization, and if you do this homework and you are fit, then you have a chance to go proper in the market and also for compliance to be understand that you have solutions prepared. And also what we need is a proper IT, technical function that works, so that we have solutions for wallet approval and to have a chance to see what is behind the wallet, to make these hops back. Is it a tainted wallet? If you are regarding how organized crime works, then you see organized crime has learned adopt all the new features on the market. And they know these things, you can go 10 years back. So they know what darknet is, how it works, and they use it. And so the chance is for us to have proper solutions, to go these hops backs, to look, okay, is this wallet perhaps tainted via darknet? What is the problem? And can we use that? And to be sure, and you have to make a risk assessment. And these risk assessments are very, very important in-house to do that and to have also all the knowledge, what you need about that. So I think together with proper IT solutions, AML transaction monitoring, all these things, special, customized for cryptocurrencies, this is a very important thing for the future also, to work, to handle it, to make easy business, not slowly and not the discussions and negotiating with management. And so this is also the thing I have learned, the dispute to keep the ball lower, not so high. All right, that's from my side.
Okay, thank you, Detlef. I think that looking at the perspectives here in EU and Switzerland, we really have a strong regulation. It will be even stronger. I know that, in EU it's always really difficult to see what will be next, because latest developments, we even were not sure if we still will have approved cryptocurrencies and you will be allowed to do any transactions. So my question is, of course, here we have people from decentralized finance, and you really will argue with us now, oh guys, you like regulation, we go other way. And for this we will have a next session after us, so you can also go there. But here I try to develop understanding now in the centralized crypto. We're talking about already regulated entities who have to follow all the requirements in Switzerland and Europe. And now I would like to suggest Magdalena to talk a bit more from practical point of view. Magdalena represents Signum Bank, and you operate already successfully for almost 3 years in Switzerland and also in Asia, right? Do you really have a travel rules? How do you transfer money from Switzerland where we're so regulated?
Well, we have the travel rule and we are compliant with it. So Signum is a digital asset native bank. And we came up with our own internally built technical solution for the monitoring of crypto transactions. As Detlef said, that technical solutions are very important. I couldn't agree more. This is why we internally developed our tool, which is called CAML. It stands for Crypto AML. And the reason for that is a historical one. When we look at the introduction of the travel rule requirement through Recommendation 16 by the FATF, which happened in June 2019, that was the time when Signum was in the process of obtaining or getting a banking license from the Swiss regulator FINMA. And then in August 2019, at the end of August, FINMA issued its guidance 02/2019 that translated the recommendation 16 of the FATF into Swiss regulation, making travel rule requirements or making travel rule a requirement in Switzerland. And just a few days after that, Signum received the banking license. So since the early stages, we had to come up with our own solution because there was nothing out there in the market that would have enabled us to be compliant. And through CAML, it's possible to monitor crypto transactions, everything that comes in and goes out, and it's possible to be compliant with all the requirements that are laid down in FINMA Guidance 02/2019. So this is, if we look back, how this all started and why we came up with our own solution that is nowadays also available for other banks. Nowadays, since 3 years have passed since the introduction of the travel rule, and the situation has changed a bit. So nowadays we have travel rule protocols. There are technical solutions out there in the market, and what Signum has done, we're a founding member of the OpenVAS, that was the Swiss travel rule approach, that joined forces with the travel rule protocol this year in March. And we decided for an implementation of the TRP, the travel rule protocol, into our internal tool, CAML. And this is a good next step, I would say, when it comes to using also the protocols that are developed out there. We decided for TRP for several reasons. The travel rule protocol has been co-developed by ING and Standard Chartered, which are banks like Signum. It's quite simple to technically implement TRP, and it covers the necessary compliance requirements. I mean, I have a compliance officer background, and as a compliance officer, I want to have a solution that is efficient, not over-engineered, and that enables me on a daily basis to do my job, to be compliant and efficient at the same time. And this is what I think we have achieved. The challenge nowadays is a bit that there are different protocols out there. I sometimes try or like to compare them with messengers. Let's say every one of us has a phone, and then we can have WhatsApp on our phone or Telegram. And let's say I have WhatsApp, someone else has Telegram, which could be the equivalent of the travel rule protocols. We cannot communicate as long as we do not have the same messenger to communicate, or as long as there is no interoperability between the messengers if you use different protocols and standards. So this is a bit the challenge nowadays, but there are already also solutions there in the development. So this is actually how Signum tackles travel rule requirements through its own internally developed tool.
Can I ask you a question, technically? If I have an account in Signum, yes, and in Bitcoin, and I would like to send money to my friend, let's say in Singapore or in US, some Bitcoins. Can I do it via Signum?
Yes, you can do it via Signum because right from the beginning, the requirement in Switzerland was a bit stricter. It also covered unhosted wallets. And what we can do with our tool, it also covers third parties. So if you have your friend in Singapore, then you can also transfer crypto assets in a compliant and efficient manner through the tool that we are working with.
So actually, I can send money whatever I want in Bitcoins if I'm your client.
Yes, yes.
Okay. It's a good news. We as Crypto Valley also participate in other associations. And for example, IDAX, it's International Digital Assets Exchange Association, also work and promote industry and private sector supporting in terms of regulatory developments. And recently, we as a Crypto Valley take participation in paper which was presented to Financial Action Task Force, where we address actually several issues. It was travel rule, peer-to-peer transactions, and also NFT. But we had, from Crypto Valley, we had a quite big working group together working, promoting and also presenting our view and about regulation and what Financial Action Task Force need to do. And I show you the cover page. You can find it on IDAX website or contact us. We can. It's a really good paper. It has a lot of interesting stuff. But you, Lucas, participated in this paper, and you also contributed a lot from technical point of view. And maybe taking into account everything we discussed already, can you give your overview of what's going on the technical field, and also the question of VASP discovery? You know, it's something which was really, we paid much more attention to this particular subject when we discuss it in a paper. So what is your opinion about the situation?
Okay, first, just like to one step back. So with the Bitcoin Association, of course, we like to have no regulation, leave everything to the market. We're also not surprised that the regulator wants to apply the same regulation that we have in the traditional finance world in crypto. And we have to make sure that it doesn't get stricter in crypto. And for that, we really should use the associations to make sure, not fighting the regulators directly, but work with the politicians to keep it friendly for crypto in Switzerland, at least in Switzerland. And the advantage of the EU is that it's moving slow, so they have another 24 months, but then they will have the same regulation as we have in Switzerland, if not stricter. Now to the regulation itself, I mean, you can do it in a more or a less harmful way. And that's really what, when Magdalena pitched TRP so nicely. So with 21 Analytics, we're like one of the main companies behind TRP. And our goal is to keep everything decentralized. So that means if you're transacting from one VASP to another, so from one bank to another, it's really transferring additional data also from A to B. So that wasn't the case before, and you have to do it now. If you want it or not, you just have to do it if you're in Switzerland, right? Now, what's the most logical way? You really do it peer-to-peer, right? You send from A to B. You send an email, for example, whatever. It's not the best solution. Now, with TRP, what we did what the big problem is, like, how do we know, just based on the Bitcoin address, who is actually B? Who is the counterparty where you have to send this data to? And with TRP, we solved this solution that it really contains in this special address called a travel address who the counterparty is. So this is the most peer-to-peer way that you can do it, and this way the ecosystem really stays open while still being compliant. Now, the biggest risk I see is, beside like having the regulation in the first place, if you just assume it stays, it's probably going to, that there are solutions where you add a central entity. Because everything is easier if you centralized, as you know. So there is especially one big American WASP that is pushing one solution where they control the server in the middle. So yeah, some of you know it, I'm not going to name them here, but this is a big risk because this company and the consortium, and especially also the government, who is, well, having some influence on that company, like every company in that country, can then decide who can actually participate in that network or not. And I think this is exactly what we don't want within crypto, right? So this is the worst possible outcome. You not just add this additional regulation, but you also add this central authority in the middle. They might not know what you're transacting, but they know who you're transacting with, and they decide who can participate and who can't. And now, if you're just saying, no, we don't want any regulation at all, this is fine, but we should push it from a political aspect. But then even more important is if you do regulation, then really do it in an open, permissionless, decentralized way, in a peer-to-peer manner. I think this is the big risk that, like, most companies are ignoring for now by trying not to do regulation, and in the end be ending up with something that is implementing the regulation in a horrible way.
Can I add to that quickly? Because one of the reasons why also Signum decided to go with TRP, because it's open source and it's avoiding the risk that Lucas just mentioned.
Okay, but we still need standardization, and IVMS 101 protocol, I guess everyone using the same standard.
That's just a tiny piece of the whole thing. So yeah, that's like a building block that everybody's using, but it's really just like, how do I format my letter that I'm going to send to the counterparty, more or less.
Okay.
So it's not like, how do I send it to the counterparty? You can still add a centralized entity, and then it's nice to have this building block, but you need something like TRP, something that is open, royalty-free, no patents, open source, so that everybody can use it and implement it to transfer this information to the counterparty.
Okay, then let's move outside EU and Switzerland. And we know that there are a lot of jurisdictions where regulation is not still in place, and they do really what we want, yeah? And also, we know some companies, they really get tired of regulation, and they move to, like let's call it arbitrage. They move to some jurisdictions where they have easy life and can have clients they like without any restrictions. So what is your opinion, Katerina? What's the future of this arbitrage?
Okay, now when I can talk after all of you talked, I would like to add two other points. Firstly, what Lucas just said about the standardization. Yes, if we don't do it, then somebody else will do it for us, and this might not be the best outcome. Also, one word about decentralization. Many of you may sit here and say, we decentralized decentralized finance, we don't need to apply them. Again, about strict regulations, Switzerland recently introduced another regulation in area of payments provider, let's put it like this. So until a few months ago, we had this classical obligation saying whoever has the power of disposal is obligated. Now we have whoever is helping to transfer the virtual assets is also obliged to apply the regulations. This may obviously give a bit impression, hey, Switzerland is a very strict country. And yes, it is. And this is what may happen, what Katarina just asked. What will happen if companies are starting going away? We call it sunrise issues, basically, that companies will go to different countries, like in different time zones, when the sun is rising on different moments. This is why we probably, in relation to this AML, is very interesting to have this travel rule, which we basically think, hey, that's traveling, let's go to a different country for a holiday. It's not like that. And then we go to the other country when the sun is rising. It's also in a little bit different context. But I think what we need in crypto industry is mass adoption, and we won't have it with the serious players which will invest in the businesses. It's not only holding Bitcoins, but basically investing in startups, investing in the assets. So we need to have serious VCs, serious financial institutions. And they have shareholders, they have also regulations, and they simply cannot invest in companies which simply will be going from one jurisdiction to another simply to avoid regulations. So yes, there is a risk that some companies may walk away. Sorry for being very strict. Perhaps it's better for Switzerland if they walk away, but I'm not afraid that basically everybody will be avoiding the regulation. We just need to have a serious player on the market, and there is no way to be a serious player without applying AML regulations. That's one thing. I would be rather more afraid in Switzerland why companies will be going. It's rather about the compatibility of our regulations with the EU ones. What about the equivalence principle? What about the PSD? Do we have similar jurisdictions? That's probably something what the companies may think, hey, why I need to have two licenses for issuing a payment token if I can go to EU, have one, and passport it to different countries? So it's rather this what I think may happen in relation to Switzerland if we don't have a broader look and try not to adhere a little bit closer at the European regulations, basically.
Thank you. Yes, travel rule again. I still have a question. What industry need to do and regulator in order that finally we can use it in all countries and when we don't have this issue, so like a SWIFT, right? The question is the latest update from Financial Action Task Force. They again reported that not many jurisdictions are ready. But what happened next? Perhaps regulator just need to put deadlines and say, look, guys, 31st of December, if you don't comply, you don't make any transfers. What do you think, Magdalena? I know that you talk about it with FATF.
Yes, I mean, it's been now 3 years since the initial requirement was introduced, and actually my observations are in line with what Katerina said. That we have regulatory arbitrage. Companies go to jurisdictions where it's not required. There are protocols out there, but VASPs are still avoiding implementation. So I would wish for a deadline imposed by jurisdictions for the implementation of the travel rule. Maybe also on an FATF level, I expect some update in the near future there, and it could be a good measure if even on that level they come up with recommendations for a deadline, and also even beyond with enforcement measures, because I mean it's been 3 years, but just a few jurisdictions have implemented the travel rule. Just a few players out there have introduced protocols into their systems and processes, and that makes it rather challenging for Swiss regulated entities or entities regulated in other jurisdictions to be more efficient, because the adoption is lagging behind. So I hope to see that in the near future.
So instead of advocating for other countries to adopt the travel rule, I'm not a fan of that. I mean, I should be, but I'm not. I rather have Switzerland and Swiss regulation like lowering their requirements for Swiss WASPs, that they only have to do travel rule with WASPs that are also in jurisdiction where they have to do travel rule. So it's not one-sided, so we're avoiding the sunrise issue. I think that would be fair. I don't know how to say it in English, but gleich lange Spieße? No? I don't know if somebody knows how to.
Equal players.
Yes, level playing field, exactly. That's what we should have.
Yeah,
and
but
then we catch up with the others and not telling the others, hey, Bermudas, you really need to do travel rule, or Seychelles or whatever. That's not going to work.
Yeah, but I mean, now what you can observe based on the EU approach, Switzerland was stricter than FATF initially, and the EU is copying the Swiss approach, so it's rather going into the direction that it's becoming a stricter approach. And I do not see that happening, that Switzerland will lower their standards. And I mean, it wouldn't be beneficial for the whole industry if we would adapt such an approach.
But we can ask FINMA. right? And see
Well,
what...
it's just temporary, right? Until like everybody has that adopted. So we don't have a jurisdictional disadvantage.
Yeah, but we need deadlines nonetheless. Otherwise, when will they
The
implement
others,
it?
maybe.
Yeah, the
Well,
others, yeah. I'm
For us,
talking
it
about
should
the ones who don't have implemented it yet.
I just want to say one thing, because we're dealing with many companies which are having those ideas to go to these exotic jurisdictions, and their investors are very clear on that subject. You're not going anywhere. So it's basically, they want to have them in, let's put it again very frank, forward in civilized jurisdictions. So Bermudas and the others won't help. If you really want to, your business will take off. Recently we needed to move company even from Eastland, which is a European country, to Switzerland, because it was the wish of companies investing in the business model. So.
But my question also, if we move business to Switzerland, how many DeFi projects, for example, move here? But again, it's for next session. And I would like to ask Detlef about costs associated with compliance. How difficult for intermediary and crypto finance, you have a broker-dealer license, right? You are fully regulated in Switzerland. How difficult for you to maintain the standards in, to be compliant with crypto regulation in Switzerland and in EU, because you are Deutsche Börse part?
Yeah, sure. Sure, that's a good question. So we have the same playing field as others have too. And so look, in the end, what is the legal basis? The legal basis is the AMLA and ordinance and CDB. And on the other side, all the things and topics with travel rule requirements also, and then we have to look to perform with our IT solutions, and therefore we need third parties. They are fit and proper to make all the things with the wallet approval and these things I mentioned before. And look, in the end, it's not a rocket science. You need a full picture. What are the details behind, and so how you can organize and you can manage between business development and compliance. And there should be short ways, direct communication. And in the end, I can say, look, a stronger regulation gives the advantage that you have transparency and you have certainty. And this is a proper basis also worldwide. And if you are looking how it goes on in the near future, also with FATF, if you read the last annual report from Moneyval, I've gone through this report, and the status is that the median level of compliance with FATF standards is below the satisfactory threshold in the supervision of the financial sector. And that means this is objective that 18 of 22 jurisdictions evaluated by Moneyval, this is a committee of experts on the evaluation of AML measures in financing, anti-terrorism financing, and these are a lot of countries also in EU member states. They are not fit and proper yet to fulfill all these let me say simple requirements. This is really not rocket science, but you have to do it in the end. And this is the problem, and this will also go in a direction. Let me say something about the situation now in Singapore. Singapore will come with a new Omnibus Act for Singapore's financial sector. And this is a really hard, strong regulation thing. And so they have a lot of power, also the authorities. So they have the possibility of make any prohibition orders, to give prohibition orders to any person with an access to the financial sector who is not fit and proper. And so this goes in a hard direction, and this is driven also by FATF. And so it seems that we have to look and keep very strong what is the development in the next near future, and to go via compliance, to look how we can manage it, and to simplify, to make it easy, but together with the right solutions, the providers we need. So that's my statement. Thank you.
Okay, we have questions, so let's open for question. And I also want Lucas to comment a bit more on technical side, and I had one more question for him about ATM machine. Because I know you you had some discussion, so why don't you give your opinion about the situation and with these new thresholds?
Yeah, so there's a new threshold in Switzerland that FINMA likes to oppose, that we only can buy up to 1,000 Swiss francs per month instead of per day, Bitcoin or crypto assets in general, from ATMs or let's say with little to no KYC. And in the opinion of most players, but of course operators of ATMs and companies affected, but also our association, this is not technology neutral as FINMA always claims to be, because for other assets it's 5,000 per day, and they want to reduce it to 1,000 per month, which kind of kills the Bitcoin ATM use case, more or less. So that's.
Not that I'm defending FINMA here, but there was reason why they've done it.
Yes, the reason was.
There was reason. Well,
the reason was that SBB, the government-owned company in Switzerland, was operating their ATMs, or their machine where they're selling Bitcoin in a non-compliant way. So they were not doing proof of ownership, and that kind of backfired to everybody in the industry, because Blick did a video how easy it is to buy drugs on the dark market using the SBB ATMs directly to your phone, directly to the darknet market. Well, great. Thank you. So actually, there's an internal government problem, if you want to say like that.
Okay, what should be the solution?
The solution is to deal with crypto exactly the same, apply the same rules and limits as we have in traditional fiat world. So 5,000 per day, back to 5,000 per day.
And I guess it will be the case as soon as we have a common standard, that we will not discussing WhatsApp with Telegram, Signal, Trema, whatever it is, because they will never communicate. As soon as we have it, probably will be much easier.
So can be reduced. Okay, we now have time for questions, and I will have to repeat your question because we're streamlining. And please introduce yourself.
Yeah, sorry. So my name is Atul Nadkat. I actually come from a different sort of industry. I actually have 3 points for the panel.
Take the microphone.
Maybe it's...
I have 3 points for the panel. First of all, each and every one on the panel has a differing view, and compliance is shady in many ways as well. Everyone, if you talk to 10 lawyers, they'll give you 10 different answers, right? So one, from a practical point of view, we're a startup. So if you want to have adoption of compliance in the right way, I think it has to be done through providing us the advice, the tools, the basic checklist that we need to quickly adopt based on the risks assessments that we do, based on the business model. And that's something I haven't seen. So there needs to be a harmonized sort of a minimum checklist that we comply. Okay, that will enable us just to start off, because this is an evolving field. Even with you guys in the panel, there's differing views. And I do agree, there needs to be compliance, but there needs to be a competitive advantage for us to make sure that we also use Switzerland as a base for, our business, right? So there needs to be this balance. And at the moment, the balance, depending on who you talk to, is different. So there needs to be one common rule. Secondly, there's no harmonized regulations on compliance. This has to be key. I come from a different industry. There, just like the banking industry, I come from a pharmaceutical med tech device, and that, again, went through evolutions of their compliance. And that compliance started off lightly as the world got grasp about compliance and the harmonized regulations which spread internationally. Of course, you had an equal, level playing field across different markets, right? So it has to be evolving, but there needs to be a checklist. There needs to be some level of minimum compliance. I know we use the Swiss, but we look at jurisdictions outside Switzerland as well. And quite rightly, you have all these other things about sunrise, issues that people may then want to think about. So we don't want that to happen, but we need to have a practical guideline. And the other thing is, we're small companies, we don't have a compliance officer. So there needs to be a reasonable level of talent pool who understands the regulation in terms of the basic rules that we could go to, which is cost efficient, for us to have that practical adoption of complying not just within Switzerland, but also showing our stakeholders that we manage, that we're doing business with integrity, and that you trust us because we're based in Switzerland, because we have these minimum standards, at least at the beginning of us starting to adopt it in a wider manner. So I know there's a lot of things I've said here, but if you can help us to just make it more practical for us to understand this in these three different manners, then the adoption element would be much faster, not just in Switzerland, but internationally.
But, sir, this what you're requesting would have international regulations, and as far as this is a fantastic approach, I would really be happy if we have it. But we unfortunately don't have it. So we will have to go to international organizations, at least to OECD, and tell them, hey, let's agree on something. And it takes a long time. And one thing which I wanted to say is that we recently, as Crypto Value Association, we published a book in almost checkbooks,
Yeah,
I would say, in relation guidelines, how to start blockchain business in Crypto Valley. In Switzerland, what is important to check, it's almost like really a checkbook. So I would recommend to
And just to
read
advise
it.
you,
Yeah.
in Switzerland, you're allowed to outsource compliance function, and you can, let's say, not full-time employee, but outsource to a company which can help you to navigate and do this. We have now coffee break in 5 minutes, but in 10 minutes, but we still have, let's go for more questions. Please. Maybe we give you a microphone. Sorry, it's a bit...
Hello. Hi. This is a good distance. Okay. Hi, I'm Khaled. I'm originally a robotics engineer, but I occasionally dabble in crypto. Anyways, I think it's very interesting that you mentioned that the EU wants to read our white paper in order to protect investors. And I'm wondering if the EU knows about the existence of decentralized exchanges, for example, Uniswap. Not only of their existence, but we're talking about, as of 2021, we're talking about $100 billion locked in decentralized liquidity pools. And this number is only going to grow exponentially to the point where some people have forecasted the death of centralized exchanges, regardless if that's true or not. I'm just wondering if, that there are regulators that understand that decentralized exchanges will now form not only the majority of transactions for your token, but also these liquidity pools will now control the value of that token. And this is something that cannot be stopped, that cannot be regulated. And it's like there's nothing that can really stop it. So where do regulators sit on this? Do they know about these exchanges, and how will they attempt to regulate them? Thank you.
May I take that one, actually? I mean, I strongly believe that regulation should not hinder innovation. This applies to decentralized finance. What, however, I have observed lately is that a lot of these decentralized finance exchanges, protocols whatsoever, they're not truly decentralized. I consider that if something is truly decentralized, it cannot be subject to regulation. But many of these players in the DeFi space take the label of being decentralized, whereas they have a controlling party, entity, company behind that can influence this decentralized protocol, exchange, make amendments, and this is not true DeFi. And as long as we have such players which are conducting financial intermediation, labeling themselves as DeFi, not being truly decentralized, I think that we need regulation there. But when it comes to true DeFi protocols, exchanges, applications, there, of course, regulation is not applicable because it would, it's not possible to regulate through decentralized finance.
Another point of that what we're noticing is that many exchanges call themselves, as she said, or basically even are being developed only for sole purpose to avoid the regulations. And yes, I can assure you, European Union knows and is aware that they are defined. And there are plans to regulate it as well.
Let's take two more questions, and then we will make a conclusions.
Hello, hi. My name is Roshi. I manage a crypto law firm in London. Excellent panel. I'm really glad to be here. My question is this. What's your advice for companies operating internationally when the rules and regulations are different in the UK versus the EU, versus the US, versus Hong Kong, versus Singapore, versus India? All the rules and regulations are different. So what's the panel's advice for how to comply, kind of building on a gentleman's point from earlier?
I can start, and scalability is always an issue, and I would say you need to start step by step. You can't do everything at the same time, but go to the market where you see the more potential, probably, and start there, and then add jurisdictions. It's the only way. You can't make it harmonized globally, unfortunately. But if you have a good internal policies and corporate governance in place and risk management, you can already implicate this easily to other jurisdictions. And for example, if you already comply with Swiss regulation, I'm sure you will comply everywhere. But it's my vision, so.
I also would, obviously it costs money, but rather go from the higher threshold than lower. Take as an example Amazon. Amazon started sending back goods and basically giving buyers the guarantee they can always send everything back before even anybody was thinking about the right to withdraw. And that's just the best in my case, really the best service. So the higher you start, you are the one who sets the standards. Everybody else needs to adhere it. But we can discuss the standard issue probably for hours.
Let's have one more question, and then we do conclusions.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Liang. I work for a consultancy helping our clients to set up anti-money laundering and compliance for crypto. We have a few clients that's operating in the buying and selling and trading cryptocurrency and other assets. I want you to ask in terms of licensing. So there's UK licensing regulated by FCA. There's FINMA in Switzerland. And when the client is trying to operate globally, they will need to be able to trade in each country under their licensing schemes. Or before when they're unlicensed, they cannot really onboard any clients. What would be the pros and cons or the sort of roadmap for a startup client, for example, to find the best way to license themselves? Is there a jurisdiction they should start first and then across globally? To start with more difficult one or start with more easy one or do them all together?
Obviously start in Switzerland.
Yes. I think we answered the question, yeah? Yes, we are a Swiss association, so of course we would welcome you here. But it's also a matter of your, product, your business model, and financial situation and resources. You also need to create substance. It's important. Don't forget that just register a company, it's nothing. You need to have people in place, and you need to trust these people. So I would say it's very case by case, like we say in compliance. Okay, I suggest we make a final statement so people bring something to remember from our group and discussion. Detlef, I start from you. What is your, let's say, one sentence advice to the audience?
Yeah, so the questions goes in the right direction, so I can mention in the end, listen, the cross-border business is always really relevant. You have to know which jurisdiction is applicable. And now we have here a Swiss regulation, but you are not only in Switzerland because the market is open. You have always the question of reverse solicitation, and otherwise you need a license. If you go in other markets, also in the EU and other countries, this is a license thing, and this is not a new matter. This is always the same thing also in the classic financial industry. So from my side, be prepared. what is your business model concrete, what are the products and services you bring, and then you have to look, okay, how can I handle it? The clients come to me actively, then it's fine, but otherwise you need a license for other markets. So, and then you have to go deep dive, what are the relevant matters, topics, what I have to fulfill, and so how can I manage it? And it's a cost, it's always a cost matter.
My advice will be build a real business case. Your business case cannot be going around the regulations, but a real business case, not trying to go, this is where I can avoid, but really make sure that your business is simply business which are needed by others.
So my advice would be make sure that you pick a jurisdiction where you have legal certainty for your business and invest in the right tools to automate processes to be compliant and efficient.
So if you want Bitcoin and crypto to stay truly permissionless and peer-to-peer, you really should look into TRP and avoid all these centralized solutions for travel rule if you have to do it. Yeah.
So it was a bit of advertisement, and now
It's open source.
for TRP, my advice will be, if you come to Switzerland, don't just be in a hurry to apply for a banking license or something really substantial. Probably you can do your business with SRO regulation. Just start with something more simple and prove your business model, and then go to the Alps high and invest a lot of money. So start slowly, but be patient as well, and you will get there. I think we are done.
Thank you so much. I think I can say it for the whole audience that this was very enlightening and very good. Thank you for sharing all your expertise. And a small token of our appreciation, some Swiss chocolate.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so now we're taking a 15-minute coffee break. I'll see you all back here at 11:15 for the second legal roundtable.